They say water remembers. The good dives, the bad choices, the nights you swore you were done. It keeps a record in the way it holds you. Firm, cold, honest. This is a story about a man who learned how to breathe after the system tried to teach him how to drown. If you've ever been defined by your worst day, pull up a chair. Drop a comment if you've ever had to rebuild from the bottom with people watching, waiting for you to fail. Some of us didn't start at zero, we started in the negatives. The first time I saw Malcolm Rivers, he was bleaching rust off a drain like it had personally offended him. Graveyard shoulders, parole haircut. The posture of a man who'd been taught to take up less space than his shadow. Southside Atlanta has two kinds of pools. There's the kind that shows up in real estate brochures. Sun umbrellas, curated laughter, a lifeguard who knows how to pose. And there's the kind that keeps kids alive in July. The city rec center was the second kind. The tile was scabbed. The starting blocks were older than TikTok. The scoreboard worked if you prayed over it. But at 3:15 every weekday, the doors blew open and salvation arrived in towels and two loud voices. Black and brown kids mostly, skinny kids, soft kids, kids with asthma and mouthy courage. A team made of necessity and hope. You could hear the difference the minute they came in. Joy sounds louder when it's not guaranteed. Tyler Vaughn ran the program. 28, ex-college sprinter, sponsorship tan and a whistle he used like punctuation. He liked the fast ones. He tolerated the rest. He had a way of telling you your limits with a smile. Keep up or get out, he'd say, pretending it was coaching. I've met men who confuse volume for leadership. He was one of them. And then there was Malcolm. The kids called him Mr. M. The coaches called him Facilities like it was a first name. The city called him a re-entry success story, like a man is a program and a life can be bullet-pointed. He watched from the edges, mopped, replaced bulbs, tried to be floor-colored. But I saw the way his eyes snapped to the water when a body slipped. Not panic, instinct, like his heart had a node tuned to splashes that didn't sound right. Who's he? I asked a bleacher auntie, the kind who keeps candy in her purse and your secrets in her eyes. She whispered it like a church rumor. Baby, that's the one. Malcolm Rivers. Fastest 100 free this side of Georgia. 16 years old and colleges calling his mama like she won the lottery. She shook her head the way women do when they know what came next. Traffic stop after practice. White teammates weed. Nobody's until it became his. Lawyer told him to take the plea. Said he'd be out quick. 15 years. 15 years for a bag that wasn't his. If you can read that without tasting metal, congratulations. You've never choked on the air in a courtroom. When he got out, he came back to the only thing that didn't lie. He took the janitor's job at a pool he would have broken records in. And he cleaned it like penance. It happened on a Tuesday. Of course it did. Tuesdays are where bad luck likes to live. Jameer, 10. All elbows and eyes. The kind of kid who is either going to save this world or burn it brighter. He stayed after practice to prove to Tyler that he could do the set without fins. Pride can be heavy in a small chest. Halfway down the lane, his kick folded into panic. He sank, came up, sank again. The water took him the way a crowd does when a concert gets too loud. Before the whistle hit Tyler's lips, Malcolm was in. He didn't dive like a hero, he cut the surface like a blade finding its sheath. 2 strokes, 1 breath, hand under Jameer's armpit, rolled the body to air. It was fast, clean, mechanical, like muscle memory had been waiting in the dark for permission. Jameer coughed up the pool and a week's worth of fear. Malcolm talked him through breath like it was numbers. In for 4, hold for 2, out for 6, again. Tyler's jaw was tight enough to cut glass. I had it, he said. Next time, let staff handle rescues. Malcolm blinked slow. We both staff. He wrapped a towel around the boy's ribs and stayed until the shaking was just adrenaline and not dying. That's the moment I knew this wasn't a story about a man who'd been saved. This was a story about a man who was going to save everyone but himself. Word moves quick in a building full of lockers. By Friday, 3 boys were lingering after close with lies so thin you could see the truth through them. My mom's late. I gotta dry my hair. We, left our goggles. Malcolm checked the clock. He had a bus to catch and a PO who thought punctuality was a god. He should have told them to go home. He put the mop away. Okay, he said, first thing I teach isn't speed. It's not drowning. Body position like a prayer. Float as trust. The way you let water hold you when everything in you screams control. A week later, there were 8 of them. Tyler noticed. Of course he did. Supervisors always notice when care happens without permission. He came out with a clipboard and a smile that never met his eyes. You're not certified to coach, he said. Your background creates exposure. Background? Malcolm asked, polite the way danger is. You know what I mean, Tyler said. I'm not trying to be a coach, Malcolm said softly. I'm trying to send these kids home breathing. Tyler filed a complaint. Risk management sent an email that smelled like bleach and liability. The director called Malcolm in with her. We have to do this face. Pause the after-hours sessions, she said, for optics. Optics don't breathe, he said, but he nodded. He knew how to survive rules written for other people's comfort. The kids kept showing up anyway. Malcolm taught them in whispers like secrets. Drop a comment if you've ever been told to stop helping because someone without skin in the game decided it made them nervous. Sometimes the policy is just, don't make us look bad. I asked Malcolm for an interview. He said no. I said I'd mop while we talked. He handed me a broom and watched how I held it. You really don't want to tell your side, I said. My side won't change what they've decided, he said. What did they decide? That I belong on the edges, that I can touch the water but not the kids. He wrung out the mop until the water ran clear. I used to dream in splits and cuts. Now I dream in bus schedules. That's a kind of mercy too. Dreams can get you hurt. What do you want, Malcolm? I asked. He stared at the lanes. The rope floats made a rhythm he didn't trust. To go home tired and know I didn't make anything worse. Here's how it breaks. Ms. Donnelly, retired white neighbor, HOA vigilante, the kind of person who believes fences save souls, recognized Malcolm from a feature I wrote about the rec center. She took a photo in the cereal aisle and posted it in the neighborhood watch group with a caption that wore concern like perfume. Do you know this man is working with kids at the pool? Be careful. Somebody found his mugshot. Somebody used the words drug conviction without vacated or coerced plea. The algorithm took a regular old bias and fed it chicken and rice. By morning, the city was concerned. Donors were reviewing commitments, and the local news wanted balance, which usually means giving a microphone to people who don't swim here. The director called him in with a man from HR wearing a tie that said he'd never met a June day at this pool. We're putting you on administrative leave, she said, pending investigation. Investigation of what? Malcolm asked. Community concerns. Community didn't drown the boy, he said. He emptied his locker into a garbage bag that still smelled like hot dogs. In the lobby, the kids were waiting with goggles around their necks, like the necklaces you give yourself when you've run out of protection. Jameer held a crooked sign, "Let him coach." The marker had bled in the heat where his hands wouldn't stop sweating. I'm not a coach, Malcolm said, voice quiet like a bruise. I'm sorry, kid. It's out of my hands. Jameer squared up his little body. That's what they said about you, he said. Wasn't true then either. Sometimes a child speaks and you hear a prophecy. He was 10. He sounded older than the city. City Hall felt like a school where the test isn't about knowledge, it's about obedience. People who had never agreed on a single thing filled the same room. A barber in a shop apron, a nurse with a badge still clipped to her, a woman with paint on her jeans who builds the houses nobody can afford. Public comment is where a town tells on itself. A man in a golf shirt said the words, "my tax dollars," like a magic spell. He used "our children" to mean his. This is a recreation facility, he said, not a rehabilitation experiment. Then Jameer's mother stepped up in her home health scrubs, a name tag that always gets mispronounced, hands that hold shaking bodies for a living. My son would have died if that man wasn't there, she said. I don't need a committee to tell me who saved my baby. If this city can't forgive a black man for surviving long enough to be useful, then maybe it's this city that needs a rehabilitation experiment. The room went quiet in that padded way pain forces. Then someone clapped, then 5 more. Then the whole left side of the room caught it like a beat. A councilwoman with braids and a spine cleared her throat. For the record, she said, pausing with the precision of a surgeon, Mr. Rivers's conviction was vacated last year. The state settled. She let that hang. The same system that stole his 20s would now like to steal his usefulness. I won't help. They voted 5-2 to reinstate him, officially, assistant coach. A real salary that wasn't an apology, but it wasn't an insult either. Tyler resigned by email at 11:04 p.m. 2 sentences. No thanks. A lot of people leave rooms before they have to learn something. If you've ever watched the people who counted you out write their own exit, hit the like. Sometimes the win is quiet. The first day back, Malcolm didn't make a speech. He walked the deck with a stopwatch like the click could measure shame out of a body. Maya, you're breathing late. Fear is faster than lungs. Anticipate it. Javi, stop fighting the water. Trust is a stroke, not a feeling. Tanisha, wide hands. Catch more than you think you deserve. He pulled Jameer aside after a set and crouched to eye level. You don't owe this sport genius, he said. You owe it honesty. If you're scared, say it. Then swim anyway. Coach, Jameer whispered, trying on the title like a new pair of shoes. What if I lose? Then we look at what you did right, Malcolm said. We do more of that. This is what real coaching sounds like. Less thunder, more weather. The team changed, not because he yelled, because he saw. The fast kids still got faster, but the slow kids got somebody to look for their names on the heat sheet. A grant came through for van service, so nobody had to choose between practice and being safe on 2 bus transfers. A black-owned construction company donated a scoreboard that worked without prayer. People who only ever show up for ribbon cuttings started showing up with towels and quiet cash. And then came the offer. A brand rep, white smile, soft grip, strong cologne, cornered Malcolm near the vending machines. We love a redemption arc, he said, which is how I know he'd never survived one. We can fund the current project, transportation, gear, some coach stipends. 6 figures. Only thing we ask is, keep the vibe family-friendly, testimonials from the right kind of parents. No, politics. What politics? Malcolm asked, voice flat as a lane line. The rep said, eyes doing that thing where they won't say race, but they want you to say it for them. Let's not make this about systemic stuff. Swim lessons are swim lessons. Malcolm folded the brochure in half, then halves again until the logo disappeared. I'm not selling a pool party, he said. I'm selling oxygen to people who've been kept from it. The man laughed in that way people do when they think you're being dramatic. Think about it, he said, leaving his card like an insult. Temptation doesn't always show up with a needle or a lie. Sometimes it shows up with a check. He took the brochure home and stared at it until the ceiling fan slowed. He could buy vans. He could pay coaches. He could make sure 100 more Jameers never learned the taste of chlorinated fear. He put the card in the trash. The brochure, too. Then he took them back out, smoothed them, put them in a drawer. He's human. Drop a comment if you've ever had to choose between funding and your soul. Tell the truth. Did you choose right the first time? State meet came in a heat you could see. The stands were full of families who'd mortgaged a week's wages in gas and hotel rooms to watch their kid be a wave for 50 seconds. Jameer had qualified by a 10th, which is to say by faith. He looked small on the block and dangerous in the water. That's how you know a kid is about to do something your narrative can't hold. The gun went off. He slipped the entry clean. First 25, he sat in second. His turn was ugly. He surfaced in third. Tyler would have yelled himself purple. Malcolm kept his hands in his pockets. Sometimes coaching is letting a boy be his own noise. Last 10 meters, Jameer found a gear you can't coach and a reason you can't give. He touched the wall by 2 1/100ths. That's the width of a lie you refuse to tell. He didn't raise his medal. He fished Malcolm's old cap out of his bag, the one from before the state stole his 20s. Stitched Malcolm. Faded thread. He raised that like inheritance. A reporter found Malcolm by the exit doors, the place coaches go to pretend they're not allowed to cry. How does it feel to finally win? She asked. He smiled without showing teeth. I didn't win, he said. I just stopped drowning. Summer hit like a choir. The current project launched with free swim lessons, free rides, free snacks, free dignity. The flyer said we teach more than swimming. We teach breathing. People laughed at the line until they watched a grandmother float for the first time and sob like a child. Until a father learned to tread water so he didn't have to stand on the steps while his daughter asked him to jump. You can give facts about black kids drowning at rates that would shame a decent nation, about pools built for some and closed to others, about history with wet hands. But none of it lands like watching a boy who used to flinch put his head back and trust the water to hold him. Coach Dev joined the staff, a black woman who swam college fly angry and now coached tender. She and Malcolm ran the deck like harmony. The kids carried the melody. The rep came back with a revised offer, less money, fewer strings, a smirk that said he thought the hunger would win this time. Malcolm listened. He didn't say no. He didn't say yes. He took the paper home. He prayed the kind of prayer you don't say out loud because the city might overhear and send someone to collect. That night, a call came from Jameer's mother. Jameer had been picked up at a strip mall, loitering, then mouthing off, then arrested for existing in the wrong posture near a jewelry store. The officer recognized Malcolm's name when she called. He came down in a hoodie and a resolve that didn't fit inside him. At the station, the desk sergeant looked at Malcolm like a test he planned to pass. He was uncooperative, he said. He's 10, Malcolm said. We'll release him to a parent or guardian. I'm neither, Malcolm said, but I'm the reason he doesn't sink. The sergeant's eyes flicked to the security camera, to the clipboard, to the cardboard box full of lost things behind the counter. You from the rec center? He asked. Yes. My nephew swims there now, the sergeant said. He used to be scared of showers. Now he jumps off the deep end like it owes him money. He looked at the closed door where Jameer sat with a boy's fury and a man's history. He looked back at Malcolm. Don't make me do paperwork, he said quietly. Take your kid home. On the sidewalk, Jameer's chin was all defiance and snot. He said I looked suspicious, he said. How I look suspicious ordering fries. You look alive, Malcolm said. Sometimes that's suspicious. You mad at me? I'm mad at a world that makes a 10-year-old feel like a suspect, Malcolm said. You? I'm proud you called. Jameer wiped his face with his sleeve. Coach? You gonna be around, like always? Malcolm wanted to say yes. He wanted to tell a promise he couldn't afford to break. He put a hand on the boy's shoulder. As long as I can breathe, he said. He went home and took the rep's card out of the drawer. He tore it up this time, not careful, not gentle. He let the trash keep it. Hunger doesn't always win. End of summer meet, the kind of day that makes you believe August will never end. The teens painted a mural on the far wall, public art done at night because permission takes too long. It starts as a river, becomes a road, becomes a track, becomes a lane line, becomes bodies floating, eyes open to a ceiling that looks like a sky. Across the top, in spray paint, grace isn't what saves you, it's what lets you try again. Jameer stood in lane 4 teaching 8-year-olds how to trust. Don't fight it, he said. Water loves you if you let it. He tapped a girl's forehead. Relax here. Safe. Malcolm stood at the edge, not in the way, not out of it. That's leadership too. He wore a COACH shirt. He kept the old supply closet key on his ring anyway. Some victories you refuse to undo. I found him alone after, in the bleachers, lights throwing cage shadows. The water below was calm in the way only 1,000 splashes can make it. You ever angry? I asked. Every day. What do you do with it? Make it earn its keep, he said. Anger that doesn't feed somebody is just a hobby. We sat there listening to the building breathe. After a while, I asked the question that felt too simple to be the right one. How does it feel? He took a long time with the answer. Like somebody finally turned the light green, he said. Doesn't mean the road is straight. He stood, picked up a stray cap, put it in lost, and found like faith. At the door, a kid called out, Coach, you coming? Malcolm looked back at the water. It looked back without lying. Yeah, he said. I'm coming. If this story touched something you thought you buried, tell me who taught you to float when you swore you were made of stone. And if there's a pool near you, ask who it isn't serving, and why. Then change the answer, because water remembers. But so do we. And the bravest thing you can do some days is step to the edge, look at the ones who sent you here and say, watch. I'm going to hand this clean.